Okay, the YouTube thing's starting, so let's go to... Okay, the YouTube thing's starting, so...
John's office or wall.
I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay, here we go. Share that. Okay.
That was close.
I know, right?
I know it's alright, we're one of a kind. Leave you behind. And all through the night, when we're running blind, I got love on my mind. Bring back that smile and make it worthwhile. Let's do this tonight, the feeling is right. It's a sky full of stars, can't tear us apart. And I knew from the start you were the beat of my heart. I know it's alright, we're one of a kind. We'll leave you behind. And all through the night, when we're running blind, I got love on my mind. I know it's alright, we're one of a kind. We'll leave you behind. And all through the night, when we're running blind, I got love on my mind. I got love on my mind. I know it's alright, we're one of a kind. We'll leave you behind. And all through the night, when we're running blind, I got love on my mind.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Gabe Turan, and I am going to be moving this thing forward in just a second here. Everybody, thank you so much for jumping on to this evening's award night. And this is our 6th annual one, actually. And it's just so amazing to be able to have such a great turnout for what's really intended to be a way to recognize all of the great work that our young people have done throughout Ventura County. So before we get started, we'll start with some introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Gabe Turan from Ventura County Office of Education in Comprehensive Health and Prevention Programs, and I oversee the Friday Night Live program and youth development work that happens all throughout Ventura County. And I'll let my co-presenter, Alejandra, introduce herself.
Thank you, Gabe. So hi, everyone. It's nice to see everyone jumping on tonight, this evening. Great to see some familiar names on here. So my name is Alejandra Valencia, and I'm a project specialist at the Ventura County Office of Education. I was able to join and meet a lot of you this year. So I'm really excited for what we have in store today. So welcome.
Great, thank you very much. So we have a couple of things going on tonight, and I just want to kind of give you an idea of what to expect and how it's going to look. And first and foremost, if you registered with for yourself or for your family and you would like Spanish interpretation, there is a button on the bottom of your controls that says interpretation, or you can click more or get some, there's 3 little dots, but you'll see an option for interpretation. If you would prefer to hear this in Spanish, there is a Spanish interpreter and an audio channel from our colleague Daisy Lopez Valadez, who will be doing interpretation for us this evening. And thank you very much for doing that. So if you go to that, you can click it and you can hear the presentation through a Spanish audio channel. I'd also like to take a moment to just give you a rundown of what we're going to be doing this evening. So we're going to be hearing some introductory words from some of our local leaders. We have Mr. Ryan Valencia, who's a representative from Assemblymember Christy Smith's office, followed by Assemblymember Monique Limon. But we also have in attendance today in our audience, Associate Superintendent of Educational Services for VCOE, Dr. Antonio Castro. I want to thank all of them for coming as well. So before we get to them though, just so you all know, we'll be going over, we'll be hearing from them on some great stuff, but then also we'll be showing for the young people who may not know, but also their families, just how all this works. How do we get to do all this youth development programming and give young people the opportunities to do this kind of work throughout Ventura County? Then we're going to talk about what the work looks like, and we'll hear from one of our schools who's put together an actual presentation for you to view tonight. We'll talk a little bit about some of the countywide groups and the work they did this year, opportunities young people got to participate in some wide, countywide large-scale events. And then we'll recognize folks, and then we'll be closing out the evening after that. So some really quick housekeeping things. And usually this housekeeping part, when we do this in person, it is me saying like the restrooms are out the door and to the right. If you have to take a phone call, please step outside. Like that's all different. So this is a lot different for me. It's something new. So if you see there on your screen, there are some participant functions for you. You have a chat function. You can, we'll give you a question in just a second that you can answer there. There's also a raise hand function. If something happens or you need to, get attention for some reason, you can raise your hand, and we will have some of our colleagues who are monitoring the chat, who will be able to address that and help you out. And then also you see that you have a Q&A box there. If you have just like a question that comes up, say that you want to know, well, how does this California Department of Education get funding for these types of programs? You can ask that. And when we get to the end of the program, if we have any questions, we might take a second or two to go over those. So that way, if you have something really important you want to ask, we're able to do that. All right. So the next thing is that we're going to do a poll, and you'll see a poll will come up on your screen, and you can go ahead and answer which question pertains to you. I'm sorry, which answer pertains to you. So let me put this up here. All right. So the question for you is, how am I today? How are you doing? How's your day going? How are things going for you in general? So you can see there should be a poll that says 1, 2, 3, or 4. And there was a picture there. Choose the cat. There's one that's kind of like, I don't know, kind of like timid, hanging out. There's 2 cats that are, I'm going to say they're playing. I don't want to say that they're fighting each other, but if they were my kids, that would certainly be a good adjective for them. There's a third one who's got the little smiley face, and the fourth one who's just completely chill. And I have a feeling that we have quite a few people who might relate to any one of those 4, but I know which one I'm looking at right now. All right, so we have people voting. They're all coming in, and we've got just a few seconds left for the vote. All right, almost all done there. I have 81% of the people have voted, 87. And we are going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1, and polling. And the results are in. And you can see there that kitty number 4, the really chill one with the kind of happy face, just hanging out with the eyes closed, 48% of our folks related to that wonderful cat there. And then we kind of went down, number 3 came in second place, and then it was pretty close between number 2 and number 1. So, all right, thank you for participating in that. Let's see, let's go ahead and close this. All right. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is, before we turn it over to our speakers, I want to know who's here with us in the room. I guess I was going to say the room. Who's here with us in the meeting today? So this is a chat box question. Which cities are in attendance tonight? Put in your chat box which cities that you're all with. So go ahead and type it out there. I know where I am, but I don't want to influence any answers there. All right, here we go. We got Oxnard, Ventura, Moore Park. Awesome. Wow, Oxnard with 3 exclamation points. I can just hear that. Oh, Oakview, nice.
Oakview, nice, perfect.
All right, Camarillo. Wow, a lot of Oxnards. Maybe we should have done this as a poll, Alejandra, to see the percentage on it. But wow, oh, whoa, I can't even count that many exclamation points, Melanie. Wow, Dr. Sanchez from Pico Rivera, awesome. Thank you so much. And then another shout out to Mr. Dan Hicks, who's a manager with Ventura County Behavioral Health. Thank you very much for coming out.
Oxnard in the house.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. That gives us a really good sense for who's here today. And it's important to know who's here because we have some representatives today who actually represent all of us in Ventura County and the place where we live, the things that we do. They have a really big hand in really helping to improve our day-to-day lives and making sure that what we have going on is making the best quality of life for us as possible. So our first speaker today is going to be the district director from the Office of Assemblymember Christy Smith, and his name is Mr. Ryan Valencia. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me, and good evening, everyone. And I know this is a special occasion because I think this is the first time I wore a button-up shirt in about 3 months. So I wanted to be extra special for everyone here because you guys have worked so hard. So as been mentioned, my name is Ryan Valencia, and I'm here on behalf of Assemblywoman Christy Smith on the eastern side of the county, and I'm a proud product of this county. Graduated from Royal High School in Simi Valley, so very proud of y'all for taking the steps that you have. And I just want to start by congratulating all of you on your participation in these youth leadership programs that lift up your peers. And, you know, President Kennedy's quote of leadership and learning are indispensable to each other is demonstrated by the very extraordinary extra steps that you have taken to help your peers and make positive lifestyle choices. And so, you know, I don't believe any of us expected the year 2020 to go the way that it has gone. Schools have closed, graduations have changed, and it seems as though the news never stops. But you know, one thing that you guys have shown is that you know we can own this moment to meet the social challenges facing teens today. And no matter where life or circumstances put you, or the personal circumstances that may not be visible to us on the outside, you know, the easiest thing to do in moments like these are just to throw your hands up and, you know, say things are out of your control. But the harder thing to do is to realize and act on the very fact that society is shaped by those who seize moments like these and enact the change that they want to see, like yourselves. So I just want to say on behalf of Assemblywoman Christy Smith, thank you so much for proving that you are the generation of change that our communities have been waiting for. And congratulations to the very special people in your lives who have raised very special persons like yourselves. And, you know, para mis hispanohablantes, gracias por probar que ustedes son la generación del cambio para nuestras comunidades, y felicidades a las personas especiales en sus vidas. Y thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. I really appreciate you coming out. And much appreciation to all the hard work that you and Assemblymember Smith and all of your office does for the 38th district. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Alejandra, who will be introducing our next speaker.
So thank you so much for that wonderful speech. So we're going to go ahead and transition over to our next speaker, which will be Assemblymember Monique Limon. So a little background on Ms. Limon is that she was elected back to the Assembly in November 2016, and she represents the 37th district that includes the county of Santa Barbara, as well as nearly a quarter of Ventura County. So she was born and raised in the 37th district. Ms. Monique has worked continuously to serve her community as an educator, a leader, and an advocate for causes advancing the quality of life in her community. Some of the key issues that are a priority for Ms. Monique: as a former commissioner on the Santa Barbara County Commission for the Women, she helped connect private and public resources with women in the community. Monique has a passion for bringing community groups together and building strong coalitions among local nonprofit organizations and civic groups.
Great. Thank you, Alejandra, for your introduction. Great to be here with you all. Buenas noches. I think we're noches now. I don't even know the time of the day, but it's great to be here with you all, especially because it's been a little bit of a rough week in our country. It's been a rough 8 weeks in the world. And so being able to kind of spend just, you know, some time with a lot of youth leaders in the 805 is always exciting to me. As Alejandra said, I was born in the 805, born and raised here. My parents did not go to college. They're immigrants from Mexico. And I grew up going to school here, and never in my life did I imagine that I would end up as an elected official, and definitely not elected official at the state level. So I think back sometimes to how I ended up where I'm at. And I think there were so many little things, including leadership opportunities that were presented by different groups. I know that all of you are leaders, and you really have taken on an issue that's important. when we think about the use of substance, of different substances that aren't good for our bodies, I have to tell you that right now with COVID-19, we're talking about that more than anything. COVID-19 has been very hard on the world, hard on the state of California. But what we know is that oftentimes a lot of communities of color are more impacted because they live in communities with poorer air quality. They live in communities that are more dense. And that poor air quality sometimes is what causes, our respiratory problems. And then I think of this other issue that we've taken up in the legislature in the last 2 years about vaping, and how the vaping situation we have in the state of California really concerns us because it has a health impact. And sometimes when when adults kind of say these things, we have a hard time making the connection. And I think sadly, this moment in time with COVID-19 reminds us that this is exactly the connection that we worry about the most. That when we have either are forced to be in situations where our health isn't the best, or make choices that impact our health in a negative way, we are more likely to get sick, especially around some of this. So I think of that, and I thank you all for being leaders among our youth in Ventura County to try to raise this awareness. I was in high school too, I was in college too, and I know that it's not always the popular thing to do, right? To say, hey, we need to watch what substances we put in our body. But I hope that you all know that it's these leadership opportunities, these moments where you get to speak up, these moments when you get to say, hey, let's figure out how to do things a little bit differently, because that's what's in the best interest of our community. That's what's in the best interest of us. All these moments build up to bigger things. And who knows, hopefully one day, one of you on this, Zoom will be the next assembly person, the next senator, the next council member. I think you never know, but please know that these moments are not lost on us. You are living the real world. I always tell people, why do you tell people to wait until college, when they're out in the real world, or wait until they have a job, until they're in the real world? Well, you are the real world. You are part of that real world, and you're helping us shape it. And so I'm thankful to all of you. I'm excited that this is your kind of year-end culmination. I'm sorry that it's not the way any of us thought it was going to go down. But I am excited that this is something that you can now also count as one of the milestones that you've accomplished in terms of raising the voice for more positive, healthier choices in all of our communities. Shout out to all the folks, that are out there from different parts, from Moore Park, from Oakview, from Ventura. A lot of you from Oxnard are on here. And I know that we also have a city councilwoman from Oxnard on here, Vianney Lopez. So she's an awesome representative from all of you in Oxnard as well. So it's great to kind of be in this space. And I hope this won't be the last time that I get invited to be in these spaces, or perhaps connect with you all. I think you all know our community in different ways. You know our community, and you are able to bring that voice to elected officials. So I hope you will continue to do that. Congratulations, and I hope you continue to be well, to stay healthy, and to be leaders that are always influenced to do the right thing for our community and for the health of everybody. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for those great words, Assemblymember Limon. We appreciate all of your time and all the work that you're doing for all of the 37th District and for Ventura County and Santa Barbara County as well. So thank you so much. So at this point, this is where we would be applauding in person. She made a really great point that this is our end of year culmination event. This is our 6th annual one, but it's the first one we've ever done not in person. So hey, it's a first for everybody. Thank you all. And thank you again to our representatives who came out and spoke with us. And I also want to make sure that I'm able to recognize, she brought up a really great point that we have a city council person from the city of Oxnard and that's Miss Vianney Lopez, who's in the audience as well. We also have a city council member from the city of Pico Rivera, Dr. Monica Sanchez. And so thank you all of you for coming out and showing your support for our young people. All right. So now what we're going to do is let's talk about how this actually works. Like, how is it that we're able to provide these opportunities to young people? I think they know that it happens, which is great. And I think that it's also really important to know that for young people and for their families, how do they get these opportunities? What is it that goes into making this happen? So Alejandra and I are going to talk about that a little bit for you right now. So you can see here that all of our slides are pictures that happened from this year. I just want to point that out. And these are young people from across Ventura County who dedicated themselves to being able to participate in these really great prevention activities this year. So first, I'm going to talk about the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Grant, otherwise known as TUPE. And in the state of California, this is how prevention work around tobacco and vaping is funded in the educational settings. So you can see here that with the TUPE, Tobacco Use Prevention Education Grant, it's meant to provide students with knowledge and skills that will enable them to be free of tobacco and vaping and other nicotine products. The idea is to give them information starting as early as 6th grade about tobacco, about vaping, about nicotine, and what effect that those products have on their bodies, especially young people who are developing physically, they're developing emotionally during those years. And the idea is that starting at 11, 12 years old in 6th grade, they start getting this messaging and getting factual information through school. Then in 7th grade, they get it again. Then in 8th grade, they get some more messaging, and it becomes a little bit more each year that they learn. And as they go through high school, the idea is that by starting that early and giving them consistent messaging again and again, it'll help them have information to be able to make really good, healthy decisions for themselves because they have the information to make that decision. So when you look at the idea behind this, well, what's the purpose of this? Why are we even funding this work around tobacco? Well, the purpose, as you can see here, is to reduce youth vaping tobacco use. And how do we know that this works? Because 20, 30 years ago, the smoking rate for young people was easily in the 20, 30% range. As time has gone on, for 7th graders in Ventura County, it's 1 to 3% of young people in that age range who currently use cigarettes. When it was like 20% just a couple decades ago, it's gone down to 1 to 3% depending on the area you're looking at. That is a huge decrease, and it's a really great example of how education, how knowledge can have people make really good positive decisions for themselves. And you can ask any of the adult smokers out there, which 90% of adult smokers today started before they were age 18. They will tell you, I wish I would have never started. They'll also tell you they probably started when they were teenagers. And they tend to say, I hope teenagers never start this because it's so hard to quit. So that's the idea here, is to be able to give them the information ahead of time so they can make really good lifestyle decisions. But also they get to collaborate with these community organizations that are out in Ventura County and all across the state who do this kind of work to prevent tobacco use. And so when we look at like Ventura County Public Health, they have a tobacco policy and a tobacco education program. And their goal is to help people be able to understand the health effects that happen from tobacco and nicotine use, from vaping use, and make really good decisions for themselves. They also help adults who want to quit smoking find ways to help them to quit, strategies, ideas, groups, counseling, but it's all done at low or no cost to those adults. So if young people know about this, know about the work that public health does, then they have another resource for getting that information if and when this is a decision they have to face for themselves. Lastly, you can see there, it's inclusive of schools, families, and the greater community. So the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Grant, there's some requirements of it that we have to be very inclusive in engaging young people and the community in this work. So that way it's not just teachers and public health just giving information, telling people don't do this because it's bad for you. It's working with them to understand how does this affect themselves as individuals, how does it affect family systems, and how does it affect the broader community in negative ways, and how can we help make it so that it's better for the young people now and the generation that follows them. So some last details about this grant. I think you should all know that it's a competitive grant. What that means is that they don't just give you the money. You actually have to complete a very extensive application process to state why you think that you should be able to use this money, this funding, to help young people in Ventura County. And I'll talk about how that worked in Ventura County in just a second, but know that it's a competitive grant, meaning that they don't just give it to you, you have to earn it. Then it also serves grades 6 through 12. And as you can see there, there's also education programs that come along with it. And when we look at the school system, for those of you who are students on here, in 6th grade, you may have experienced a part of your science portion of class or health that was called MSPP, where maybe you worked in groups and you talked about tobacco and like what the health effects were, and you maybe looked at advertisements and the way it's advertised, and that was part of the curriculum. In 7th grade, maybe you did something called Project Alert, where you did lessons different days of the week or a couple times throughout a couple weeks, and maybe you worked on like coming up with skits where you pretend somebody's offered a cigarette or a vaping device, and that person, now you have to have a skit like how can they say no in a way that's very realistic, right? So that's Project Alert. In high school, maybe you experienced something called Project Toward No Drug Abuse, or TND, where you had workbooks and you thought about how has addiction affected my community, how has it affected my family, and you're able to kind of journal that. Maybe you learned more about addiction and how it affects the teenage brain and how it affects people. You also might have done like what was called a talk show lesson, where they have this like pretend talk show and people are like different roles in that talk show. So that's TND. Or you might have done the Stanford Toolkit. Stanford University developed another curriculum to help young people understand the risks around tobacco and how that affects them and how it affects families and communities. And all of the work that you all have done through FNL or through your districts around tobacco is most likely funded through this grant. Your district probably has a grant for tobacco use prevention education. And because of that, they said the state requires you have to engage young people so they can have a front seat decision-making role in this. They need to not only learn in class what tobacco and nicotine and vaping does to them, they also need to have an opportunity to be able to advocate for themselves and their peers to fight against the tobacco companies and let them know that you will not be the next generation that continues this addiction to nicotine. And lastly, you can see their vaping and tobacco intervention and cessation. The idea behind that is any young people or your peers who may be thinking about using tobacco, they can get information to help them make a decision not to do that if that's the decision they make. Or if they've already started vaping or using other nicotine products, they have opportunities to be able to stop using, to be able to find ways to get help to stop using, because it's a very difficult addiction to walk away from. And the last thing I'll say about this, I mentioned it was a competitive grant. Well, the last 5 years, Ventura County has had a consortium grant, and we had a number of districts who were able to fund that, which is how you've been able to do the work you do around nicotine and vaping in your school districts. However, there's now a new grant, and it was highly, highly competitive. And I can't stress to tell you just how competitive it was. There were in the state of California, there's a couple hundred school districts just in this immediate area where we were applying, and it was highly competitive. And you all may be happy to know that you can see on the screen now that we have been notified that Ventura County's consortium grant has been funded for a new grant cycle, meaning the next 3 years, these 9 school districts all partnered to be able to offer this tobacco programming in their school districts for their young people. So all that stuff I just talked about, we now have funding to continue it. Now, in addition to that, we have other school districts, Simi Valley and Conejo Valley school districts, who were also funded. So we have consistent funding all throughout Ventura County. And I think what that really shows is the great amount of work that all of you young people and all of you school staff, adult teachers, counselors, ORCs, all of you have done amazing work. And we've been able to demonstrate that and say, this is what we did the last 5 years. And we think we can continue it. And this is how we're going to enhance it moving forward. The state said like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. They funded the applications. So great job to all of you for being able to help us continue to do this work. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Alejandra now, who's going to talk a little bit about Friday Night Live.
Thanks, Gabe. So now that Gabe mentioned how everything works with the funding, with how we get funded, and how do we get young people involved, and now I'm going to go over the program, the actual program that engages young people into doing the amazing work that you all have been doing and with your adult partners. And that program is called Friday Night Live. So I'm going to go ahead and transition into just a little bit of a history of what Friday Night Live is and how that program, we're able to implement it into your schools. Then later you're able to go out into the community and really represent. And this is why we're recognizing all of the great work that you all are doing and did throughout the whole year. And it's not, I'm just going to go ahead and go over it. So FNL, which stands for Friday Night Live, is a program, is a state-funded program that builds partnerships for positive and healthy youth development to engage youth as not just engaging in their communities, but to develop active leaders and being able to connect resources and bring them into their communities and be aware of their surroundings and being able to really make an effective change in their communities. Move on to the next slide. So just a little bit of background with Friday Night Live. It started off, just a little bit of history. It started off back when in 1984. So Friday Night Live started something very similar to what we're doing. We are gathering on a Friday night in an evening. So it started off as a pilot program in a few California counties. The focus was mainly keeping young people engaged and really starting the conversation away from risky behaviors on Friday night, which is kind of what we're doing right now, but we're actually recognizing all the hard work that you're doing. So then it started later into the 1990s, where it really started getting into a focus and really started growing into the middle schools and the high school levels, focusing more on alternative activities, and again, really focusing on prevention work, prevention and education all around alcohol, tobacco, as to start some of the initial steps into a lot of the youth development work that you all are doing to this day. So there was a little bit of shift into the 2000s into alternative activities, as far as assemblies, dances, lunchtime activities, which is a lot with what you all are doing right now, right? Very youth-led, very youth-driven project work in your communities. And then FNL mentoring started in the mid-2000s. And today we actually just, with so much of the expanded focus into a healthy lifestyle, making positive, healthy choices around alcohol, tobacco, traffic safety, and bullying, and really focusing on social norms and shifting into creating a positive social change and community wellness all around. So right now we have FNL that is implemented in 50 of the state's 58 counties, and it has a very, very rich history of partnering with states at the level and local entity that you just witnessed with some of our amazing inspirational keynote speakers that you all just heard earlier to kick off our presentation, our award ceremony. So FNL, we have FNL, which is for the high school clubs. And then we have Club Live, which is at the middle school clubs. And then we have FNL Kids, which is at the elementary. And then we also have some our FNL mentoring, which is we partner high school mentors with middle school proteges with a separate program which pairs and bridges the gap between high school and middle school, so they're able to transition into a healthy and positive high school experience. So what does that mean? What is the program? What do we want to get out of it? So it's we're building resiliency. So youth development and resilience are the key focus, right? With Assembly Member Limon, she mentioned right now it's a challenging time, especially for all of us, especially for all you young people. You know, we talk a lot about resiliency and what that is. It's really overcoming some of the challenging times that we're facing, right? So so 3 factors that we focus in youth development and resilience: really setting high expectations, building caring relationships, you know, what we do with your adult partners, all of your adult advisors, right? Those check-ins, creating meaningful participation, right? A lot of the activities that you all did, whether it was through Teens Kick Ash, whether it was coming together during your lunchtime, even checking in post, you know, back in March when we started, you know, which is the quarantine and the pandemic. You all are so resilient as of now, right? To really implement all of those key factors and what is the program. You all are implementing them right now. And I want to thank the adult partners for really being there and creating, again, a safe environment for young people and really supporting them in becoming successful adults and being able and continuing to maintain those meaningful relationships that you establish within the beginning of the year. And with a lot of young people that are in the room, that means that some of them have been through the club life and are now the FNL club chapters in the high schools.
Great.
With that being said, yeah. With that being said, no, we're good. Then we're gonna go ahead and transition into our presentation. So.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Alejandra. So I just wanted to also reiterate, you explained it so great that those 3 things there are so important: high expectations, caring relationships, and meaningful participation. For the adults who are viewing this right now, I'd just like to take a second to ask all of you to think back to when you were young. We're all still young. I like to think back to your adolescence when you were a teenager, and think about who was an adult in your life during that time who had these 3 things. Somebody who had high expectations of you, who thought, you know, I believe in you and I know that you can do great things. And they set the bar kind of high for you, even if that was challenging sometimes. There was a caring relationship with that person where you just genuinely knew that person cared about you, your well-being, and your success. And then they had opportunities for you for meaningful participation. Those 3 things are really a great way to predict more success for young people. And no matter the neighborhood you grow up in, no matter the zip code you're from, no matter the challenges that your family may experience, if those 3 things are present, it's going to be that much more likely that a young person will experience success. So just wanted to make that, you know, that little connection for the adults in the room as well. Just think back on that and how that affected all of you during that time. And for the young people, that's probably where we are right now, right? Hopefully your FNL advisors or youth development advisors or teachers, parents, or other people in your lives are filling those 3 needs for you. All right, so as Ale had mentioned, we have a very special presentation tonight that'll be given to us by the Haydock Academy of Arts and Sciences. And they also, much like everyone else, had to go remote when the school closures happened and it was found that people needed to stay well and stay safe at home. And so their presentation, if you've been to past awards nights, we would have some schools who would be on stage presenting to you about some of the work they did this year. Well, there's no stage. However, we do have the virtual meetings that we've been having, and that's how they're going to be presenting to you right now. So I'm going to turn it over to them and you'll see them on your screen.
Hi, my name's Sophia and I'm an 8th grader at Haydock and I've been in FNL for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Estefania. I've been in FNL for 2 years and I'm a 7th grader in Haydock.
Hello, my name is Miss P and I'm the advisor for FNL at Haydock. And I've been working with the FNL Club Live at Haydock for the past 7 years. We are the Haydock FNL Club Live. Our club is composed of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We meet on Fridays. Together, we plan many activities at Haydock to promote a healthy lifestyle away from tobacco, drugs, and alcohol. Join us as we take you into our top activities this school year.
We kick off many of our events during lunchtime. Red Ribbon Week is a major event for the club. We come up with dress-up days for 1 week. Students participate in lunch activities. We had the organization Bright on campus this year. They helped us with activities and games.
The Tobacco Bus is another event that promotes healthy lifestyles away from tobacco. The 6th graders at Haydock toured the bus while we presented them with the facts of tobacco and tips on how to say no and help others quit.
The Pennies for Pasta fundraiser helps patients with blood disorders, and we promote to the entire school how they can help out with donating spare change found at home. The winning classes get Olive Garden luncheon. This year, Miss Ventus' class collected over $500. The entire school donated over $2,000 in spare change. The FNL Club Live is not only about promoting, but also giving back to our communities.
We also enjoy attending workshops and conferences. This year, we attended the Teens Kick Ash conference at VCOE and participated in many workshops that will help us develop skills and ideas to bring back our clubs. We didn't attend the youth conference at Pacifica this year due to COVID-19 school closure. However, some of the members participated in planning the event and had a great day planned out for many of us.
Finally, we have had school presentations. This year, we participated in Read Across America and presented to 6th grade science classes about the myths of vaping. The FNL Club Live at Haydock enjoys having many ongoing activities and presentations to keep us informed of the many ways to stay healthy and away from tobacco, drugs, and alcohol. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and a quick glance of what we do here at Haydock.
Thank you.
Thank you from Haydock.
All right, so if we could all at home give them an amazing round of applause for the work that they did there, not only for their presentation, but all the work that all of the young people from Haydock had done, as well as all the other chapters. But we'll give all the other chapters a recognition in a few minutes. But thank you all for presenting, and that was really great. And I tell you, it was the first time I ever organized a presentation via Zoom. And so thanks for giving me a first for my career as well. And I see them getting a ton of shout outs in the chat. Awesome. All right. So now what we're going to talk about is some of the larger county-wide opportunities that young people who participated in this programming this year were able to get. And the first one you see on your screen there is Teens Kick Ash, and they had referred to it in their presentation as well. And Teens Kick Ash is a conference that happens. It's open to students across Ventura County. And as you can see there, this year was the 22nd annual, 22 years. That's a lot of kicking ash. So if you see here that this particular conference is organized by multiple school districts, by Friday Night Live, and then also in collaboration with Ventura County Public Health. And one important organization that's not listed on that slide, but I definitely want to give a shout out to, is Bright. And they were also mentioned in Haydock's presentation. They do amazing work across the county and with the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Grantee Awards. So that being said, all of us collaborate to be able to put this conference together. And we have an amazing speaker who will come out and talk this year. We had Mr. Ray Lozano, who's an internationally known speaker who speaks about youth leadership, development, about addiction, and he shares his own personal story about his family's history with addiction. He did an amazing job. And as you can see on the next point there, over the course of 4 days, we presented to over 500 students across the county. We had a high school conference out at Ventura County Office of Ed. We had a middle school conference. And then we also served our non-traditional schools. And these are our schools for students who are in specialized education programs or maybe are not in their district anymore and have had to go to another school. But we also had a special presentation at Providence School, which is our school for youth who are currently in custody. And all of these presentations were all done so that these young people can get this information and be able to make really great informed decisions for themselves. And all of the districts and all of the presenters who I mentioned and all the collaborators, they all work really hard over many, many months to put this all together for young people. And it's a day-long conference. They come to the facility to be able to experience it. And the expectation after that is to have them go back to their school districts, back to their school sites, and do some kind of work around around vaping, nicotine prevention. And even though we have 200 kids per day or whatever it is at the conference, there are thousands of young people who didn't get to go. So now their responsibility for going to the conference is going back and giving that information to those who couldn't be there. And they do a great job in a number of different ways on that. So I did get a message from Alejandra that she was having some technical issues with her computer. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this portion here. And this is in regards to the youth conference that was also referenced in the presentation. And the FNL Youth Leadership Conference is an annual conference that happens in Ventura County every single year. This year was the 17th annual version of that. And that's 17 years of conferences that we've put together. Every single year, this conference is put together by young people your age from Ventura County, from FNL chapters throughout different school districts and across the county. And you can see there, this is the flyer that they came up with. When I say they come up with everything, they come up with everything. They drafted this flyer and what they wanted it to say, what they wanted it to look like. If you can see my arrow, they came up with the theme, which was 2020 vision. They come up with the workshop presenters and who they're going to be, what they're going to talk about. They talk about what we're going to have for lunch. They do everything from the ground up. And it's done in partnership with the adults who help them have the opportunities to do that. So as you can see here, as I mentioned, it's all planned by young people in what's called the Youth Advisory Council, or the YAC. That is our countywide youth council of FNL and Club Live participants who will once a month come together and work on planning this conference. And we do it step by step by step every month when we meet. And they come up with youth-focused workshops. They know what is important for people their age to hear about, what are important topics we should have. And every year looks a little bit different. Well, every year also has some of the very consistent topics that are things that face young people every single year. It's open to grades 6 through 12. And this year we had easily the largest registration turnout we've had in 17 years of having this conference. And I think that goes to say that the young people who worked on it this year were incredibly dedicated and wanted young people to just fill the Pacifica auditorium and fill the classrooms that we were renting, to be able to have all these young people come and learn about this stuff that they came up with, that they felt was important for them to hear about. Now, recognizing what did happen, it was slated to happen during the second week of March, which that was also the week when all of the school closures happened. So unfortunately, we had to cancel this year's conference. But one thing that I think is really important, and we had a special meeting just with our Youth Advisory Council members when they came back from spring break, and we let them know that even though the conference was canceled, there are things that occurred in planning that conference that were equally important. If you think about it, the young people who were in charge of coming up with this, they probably learned organizational skills. They probably learned how to work in small groups with people you may not know. They probably learned how to talk with people who you would like to ask to be involved in a conference that you're putting together. They learned how to do outreach and marketing and promoting the conference. And I think that shows in just how we had nearly 250 people sign up to come to this conference. And so even though it was canceled, nobody can take away from the young people the skills and the experiences they had by planning the conference. And I think that's so important. And I give them so much respect and props for putting that much dedication into putting an event together, regardless of how it turned out in the end. So they did an amazing job putting that together. And I see some shout outs in the chat for that. So shout out to them. We will give them a specific shout out in just a few minutes. All right, so now we're going to do some recognition. This is the part of the evening where we actually recognize and honor the people, young people and adults who put in so much work this year to make this a successful year and be able to give these opportunities to the young people of Ventura County. All right, so for Friday Night Live specifically, these are the schools that participated this year. In the chat, let's see you shout out your school. Let us know which school you're from. Give yourselves a shout out there. Who is represented here? You can see in alphabetical order. We have, I'm gonna go through it quick while the chats are going on. We have Channel Islands High School, Condor High School, Driffle School, Fremont Academy, Frontier High School, Haydock Academy, Hillside, Wainimi High School, Kamala, Lemonwood, Oxnard Middle College High School, Oxnard High School, Pacifica High School, Rancho Campana, Rio del Valle, Rio Mesa, Royal High School, Santa Paula High School, Santa Susana High School, Simi Valley High School, Sinaloa Middle School, Juan Soria Middle or Elementary School, Sunset School, Thurgood Marshall Academy, and finally Valley View Middle School in Simi Valley. Okay, I guess I can breathe now. All right, and look at all these shout outs here. Look at, wow, awesome. And I want to say that all of you, all of the work that you've all done this year, amazing work. And you should all be so proud of yourselves, because as Assembly Member Limon had mentioned, this kind of work, sometimes it doesn't feel very popular, or it doesn't feel like what we're doing is going to be effective, but I assure you it is. And what I like young people to know is that if there's even one person your age out there who's struggling with alcohol and drug issues, with vaping, or maybe they have issues or challenges at home that they feel they can't talk about, you bringing these issues to the forefront and talking about them and giving people space to hear about them, learn about them, and talk about it themselves, you may help even just one person who feels that they have no one to talk to, or they feel like nobody's going through this. So the work you do is so incredibly important. So I hope you all recognize that and you're as proud of yourselves as I am proud of you. All right. So now, I had mentioned the Youth Advisory Council earlier, and with the YAC group, as I mentioned, they put together the youth conference every year, and they dedicate extra time beyond what they already do with their schools, what they already do for homework, what they already do with their other clubs they're a part of, and they once a month come together to help plan the conference. So you can see there, that was the shirt, the design for the shirt for this year, and they designed it. Now, let me put that out there too. And so just a shout out from Channel Islands High School, we have Elisa, we have Melanie, we have Israel. From Soria School, we have Rebecca, Genesis, and Montserrat. From Haydock, we have Leslie, Estefania, Viviana, Brenda, Wanda, Sophia. And from Pacifica, we have Hannah, Brandon, and Jesus. All of you amazing young leaders. Thank you so much for that. And I hope we didn't leave anyone off that list. We looked back, we asked advisors, we want to confirm that everybody's there, so they all got a shout out. But I hope everybody out there can give them a nice round of applause for all of them being able to come together every single month and dedicate their time to put this together. And I hope adults don't feel like they're being left out, because we will get to them in just a second. All right, so now for some final recognition as we round out the evening. And I want you all to know that every single slide that you've seen in this PowerPoint, this presentation, this Zoom meeting, whatever you want to call it, we wanted some way to recognize the young people of Ventura County who've dedicated their time this year. Because in person, when we do this, you're all out in the audience, we can bring you on stage, we give you some really cool plaques. But like, how do we do that now? And so I wanted some way to at least visually be able to recognize the faces and the dedication of all of you who put in so much effort this year to make this county and to make your cities and communities a better place. Thank you all so much for that. And the program I used to make this collage, it would only let me do so many pictures. Otherwise, you'd have hundreds and hundreds of pictures up there. But this is just a taste of all the young people who've dedicated themselves and their efforts this year. They did so, so much. However, I also want to give a shout out to some other really important people. We would have nothing, we would not be able to do this if it wasn't for our adult advisors who also dedicate their time beyond their regular job that they do during the regular workday to give young people these opportunities. Remember, adults, when I had you think back to who was an influential person in your life who gave you these kinds of opportunities, who gave you a caring relationship, who had high expectations for you, these adult advisors are in that role for young people now. They're giving them those three things in order to make sure that they have opportunities for success as young people. So our advisors, I would just like to give them such an amazing shout out to all the work they do. All of those schools that we listed there, they all have an adult who's attached to them who's doing this work. All of the YAC meetings we talked about, there are adults who will take the students and do all the transportation permissions and extra work that you young people don't see in order to make sure you get the opportunity to participate. So make sure that let's all give them a huge round of applause because advisors just deserve so much of that. Lastly, about advisors though, one thing that I think is easy to take for granted is that they, in addition to doing this kind of work every year, this year, we had to do it remotely. This is something that's never been done before. They had to figure out, how do we do chapter meetings that were previously done in person, either during lunch or after school with 20 kids? Like, how do you do that when you're not allowed to meet in person? And they all figured it out. There were a couple who did it before we even had ideas to give them. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to all the adult advisors for that extra layer of win that they totally had this year, because them figuring out how to continue to give young people opportunities for participation, even remotely, even in spite of COVID, even in spite of stay-at-home orders, they still figured out and they still did it. So opportunities, it was important to them that you still were able to do that, even though we were all working remotely. So thank you so much for that, for doing that. And I see shout outs to our advisors. Go ahead and keep shouting out your advisor in the chat there. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we are now about to close out the evening, and I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for dedicating your time to be here tonight, but also dedicating your time to be here all year. And it's not only the young people and the advisors, for families, for parents, for guardians, you supporting your child, your young person, giving them the ability and opportunity to participate in these types of programs is equally important. It's obvious to us that you truly care about their well-being and about their success and allowing them to have opportunities like this. And so I hope by seeing this information, you're able to see the work that's happening with them and know that we are all doing this, including you. We are all doing this so that all of our young people are as successful as possible as they move through middle school, through high school, and into young adulthood. And so I want to thank all of the parents and families and guardians as well. We'd also like to thank again our dignitaries who were here today. We had Dr. Antonio Castro, who's Associate Superintendent of Educational Services. We had Council Member Vianney Lopez, Council Member Dr. Monica Sanchez. We had a representative from Assemblymember Christy Smith's office, Ryan Valencia, and then we had Assembly Member Monique Limon come out as well. Thank you all so much for that. I appreciate it. Thank you to the students. Thank you to the adults who are here. And that's, I mean, I give so many shout outs. We could do a whole another hour of just that. So what we're going to do though, is we were able to put together a video that's going to just kind of highlight some of the stuff that happened this year. And so I want to be able to show that to you, and then we will have our closing words and finish the evening.
tractor, lean all in my bladder. Cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. My life is a movie, but riding in booties. Cowboy hat from Gucci.
I'm killing it. Swinging side to side and I'm killing that. Whoa. Damn, your girl so fine, but her breath is like. Whoa. She says she wanna dance, but she don't know how to. Blessed,
never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Yeah. Hey, every day can be a better day despite the challenge. All you gotta do is leave it better than you found it. It's gonna get difficult to stand, but hold your back.
To the left now. To the right. Now take your left hand and put it on your side. Don't roll your shoulders.
Why don't you say so? Didn't even notice. No punches that to roll with. You got to keep me focused. You wanna say so? Day and night and morning, keeping me in the moment. I bet you hadn't known it. Why don't you say so? Didn't even notice. No punches that to roll with.
She got me in my feelings. Gotta be real with it. Are you riding? Say you never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you, and I need you. And I'm down for you always, KB. Do you love me? Are you riding?
All right, so I want to thank all of you again for coming out and dedicating this evening. Thank you, young people. You are amazing. Stay amazing. Keep doing the amazing work you do. Thank you to the adults who give them the opportunities to do this. You are truly changing lives. Thank you to the parents, families, guardians who are able to support this work as well. And then thank you to our dignitaries and our decision makers, our administrators who give us the opportunities to do this kind of work. And lastly, I want to thank our team who helped put this together. And you'll see on our panelist list here, we have Daisy Lopez Valadez, who is doing interpretation for us tonight. Thank you so much, Daisy, for that. And we have Amber Macias, who works in our office as a project specialist technician, who has helped monitoring the chat and might have interacted with a few of you. We have Miss Kathy Pachetti, who is also who's a prevention coordinator in our office and helped monitor the chat as well. And then we have our director, Ms. Dawn Anderson, who oversees all of this work and helps provide the leadership for us to be able to do this for all of you. So thank you very much. I also want to thank my co-presenter, Miss Alejandra Valencia. I don't know if your mic's working now, but if it is, I'll give you a second to come on. But thank you all so much. Appreciate it. And this is always my favorite event of the year because it just reminds me of all the work that we did this year, all the great work you all put in. And it really makes me hopeful about how much better and how much more stuff we can do next year. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great evening. Take care.
Goodbye, without a doubt. Gonna do one burn down. It's running out of here for far too long. Cause I'm getting so low. Nothing can you give me makes me feel so bad. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.